Hi everyone, my name is Shannon White, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through an overview of instructional design. All right, so on our agenda, it includes a discussion of what instructional design is, a breakdown of the five popular instructional design models, and then I will show you how one of the models connects directly to the work I do as a middle school language arts teacher with my PLC team when we're planning our unit instruction. All right. So, what is instructional design? I'm just going to give a my own personal definition based off of the readings this week and the research that I've done. So, instructional design is a systematic process of creating educational materials and experiences for effective learning. So, at its core, we want it to be effective. It needs to be engaging for the learning experience. And it's a great process for educators. Like I said, I am a middle school teacher. So, the process helps educators and even trainers figure out what needs to be taught, how it's going to be taught, and how will I know if it worked. All right, so the first model that I will be covering is going to be the Addy model. This one is super popular, and honestly, it's probably the easiest for everyone to remember. It started with the U.S. military back in the 1970s, and it's still widely used today. Um, the acronym stands for Analyze, Design, Development, Implement, and Evaluate. So I have on the slide that it is linear, meaning you have to go through the step by step process. However, it does lend itself to being able to go in between and be able to revise. It's flexible enough for you to be able to go back and revise as needed. So this model again is step by step, and it's step by step because you have to make sure that everything is aligned from the beginning to the end. And it is rooted in the learning theories of behaviorism and cognitivism. Second is the Dick and Carey model. So this one is definitely more detailed, and is treated as a whole system, which learning is a whole system, but everything connects starting from your goals, your assessments, and your strategies. Everything is connected. So the 9 steps begins with identifying goals and it ends with the revision process for formative evaluations. The model focuses on measurable outcomes, which is great for any type of instruction. And I know I keep referencing the school system, but I am a middle school teacher. So it's data driven instruction, which is, I work for a school that is a data driven instruction school. So we look at measurable outcomes, and this model, it's rooted in the cognitivism learning theory. All right, so next is Gang's 9 events of instruction. So this was developed back in 1965 by Robert Gaines, and it pretty much acts as a teacher playbook. It breaks down instruction into a sequence that matches how people actually process and learn new information. So we start off, we have to gain the learner's attention. Like, hey, look at me, I'm over here. Then clearly state the objectives that the learners will be learning. Help learners recall what they already know. So that's activating their prior knowledge and their schema. Then you work your way through the content that you're teaching. Allow the learners time to practice, give feedback, and assess. And the last step is to enhance retention and transfer. So it's practical for lesson planning, and it is also, like many of the others, rooted in behaviorism and cognitivism theory. It pretty much is how are the learners going to respond to the instruction and how they process it mentally. All right, Merrill's first principles of instruction. It focuses on learning through real world problems. So the idea is that people learn best when the instruction is meaningful and connected to real life tasks. Something that definitely remember from the research is that he specifically states that information alone is not instruction, which is true. We can't just consume information and then boom, we've learned it. So the five principles, I'm saying this in no particular order, but it's to present a problem, activate the learner's knowledge, give the learner time to demonstrate, show them examples um, of the skill, the new skill that you've taught, to give them time to apply it. So their real world application, give them time to do it. And finally, to be able to integrate it into the world, into their world. So this one, again, like many of the others, is rooted in the constructivism theory. And I just based off of the reading and based off of the research, it seems as if it is more project based learning. All right. And our final model that I'll be covering is rapid e-learning design. So rapid e-learning design is all about speed. How fast can I get the content and pretty much making it simple into bite-sized pieces. It's used when instruction needs to be created quickly. For instance, like online training, and you can possibly even consider this week's assignment with a video presentation to be rapid e-learning. So I would say that it's more of a refresher. It's not something that you need to utilize to, hey, I'm just learning this information for the very first time. But it's more of a refresher or something that you're just being updated on this information because it's definitely, I would say, the quantity is preferred over the quality in most situations for rapid e learning. It cannot be, but pretty much it's more of a refresher. So with rapid e-learning, you pretty much eliminate some of the timely steps in the process of developing the presentation and the content because you're not starting from scratch and going through an entire process. You're more than likely going to be utilizing templates or just existing information, which is why I'm saying that it's more of a refresher. You're taking information that's already out there and you are developing it quickly, and learners are being able to access it quickly. So it skips some of the deeper analysis steps. This approach is flexible, however, and it aligns with pretty much every learning theory, behaviorism, cognitivism, and constructivism, just depending on how it's being utilized. And I would say it's probably used more often in like corporate setting, corporate trainings. But again, this is just for like a quick update. In my opinion, it's a quick update and it's micro learning. All right, so lastly, on this slide, I didn't want to add too much. I just added two graphics because I'm relating it to how my team utilizes the professional learning community. Most of you probably have heard of professional learning communities before. It is also referred to as an acronym of the PLC. So I am utilizing the Addy model because although we don't call it Addy, what we're doing, in my opinion, is we're doing instructional design based off of the Addy model. And then the second graphic that I have, this is just a snippet of the document that my PLC team, we work through. We look at it and we work through it. It's developed by our curriculum department, and we work alongside our curriculum coaches and as a team to be able to plan out our units of instruction. So our units are 6 weeks long, and at the beginning of the unit, um, snap at that this snapshot that I have, we pretty much ask ourselves these questions before we begin planning that 6 week unit. What do we want our students to learn? How will we know that students have learned it? How will we teach it? And what will we do if the students did not learn? So we have these different we can click on these different things, which is planning, assessment, instruction, and supports, and we go through this whole process. So I am a teacher in the state of Texas, so it's standards based, and we use the TEKS. So at the beginning, we analyze the student data. So let's say this is the beginning of the school year, and right now I'm teaching sixth grade. So it's the beginning of the school year. We might analyze their data from previous assessments, and what they've learned in fifth grade if I'm teaching sixth grade. So we look at the TEKS. We look at their test from the previous year and we compare it to our TEKS, which is our standards that we are wanting to learn. We wanting the students to learn in this unit. So we're focusing on this unit, and again, this is the analysis process. So we're looking at the focus TEKS. We might be talking about Arthur's purpose. I'm a language arts teacher, so Arthur's purpose. If we're looking at Arthur's purpose, what was the verbiage in that TEK or that standard last year? Has it changed from last year to this year? And what do we want them to learn about it? And pretty much in that analysis process, we are also looking at vocabulary words that they need to know, misconceptions that they might have about Arthur's purpose. What might they mistake Arthur's purpose for being if they're reading a text? And from there, then we move on to the design phase. And with the design phase, we're looking at the lessons we will be teaching. Our units are thematic, so it may be an exploration thing. We're looking at that. We're seeing what we have to work with as far as the lessons go, and what assessments we're going to be working around in that unit. After that, we go to the development phase, which is this is when we create our resources. We're creating our resources. What are our anchor charts going to look like? What are our notes going to look like? And we do this as a team because it needs to be the same for each teacher. Even though we're different teachers, three different teachers, we still need to be aligned in what we are providing to the students. Then we move on to the implementation stage. That's when we're actually delivering the lessons to the students across our classes, and we're just following our pacing guide from the analysis and design and development stage. Lastly, we do the evaluation. So with the evaluation, that's when we as a team, we meet pretty much daily as a PLC community. But we may teach a lesson, we give them like an exit ticket or maybe an actual assessment, and then we as individual teachers, we analyze that data. After we analyze that data, then we come together as a PLC department, and we might come in with three different samples. We have a high student, a medium student, and a low student. And from there, we look at our percentages, like if 50% of the students, if more than 50% of the students failed um, on that standard, then we need to analyze, do we as a community, do we need to do a whole class reteach, or do we need to just pull small groups? And that's where that what will we do if students did not learn comes in, because that's the reteach process. Is it small group, or will it be a whole class reteach before moving on to another unit? So, like I said, even though we don't call it Addy in my day to day work, we're basically using it. And like I said, it's most easy to remember. And that's all I had to say on that. But to wrap it up, instructional design, it helps us to pretty much be better educators, and it helps us to be more intentional and effective. And thank you guys for watching.